All right. Hello, everybody. So this is the T's 6 Bootcamp. We're going to start off first. We did do a lot of review this morning. So I'm here just to kind of give you some highlights of what our review was, what we went over, and everything of that nature. We're first going to start off with some math practice. So I'm going to start off with doing a few problems and explaining the different ways of solving them. So without further ado, I will begin with the first question. 30 is 40% of what number? Thirty is 40% of what number? So when you're looking at a question like this, you want to be able to break this down and understand that words can be transformed into math language. So is means equals. Of means multiply. Number refers to the variable, what we're trying to find. So 30 is 40%, which we're going to represent that in the decimal form, of what number? So now we're going to divide by 0.40 on both sides. Okay, and when we divide by 0.40 on both sides, 30 divided by 0.40 is going to give us 75. So our answer is x equals 75. Okay. Next problem. You want to convert the percentages to a decimal. So 58.3% to a decimal. Okay. So when we're converting a percent to a decimal, we simply want to just divide by 100. So 58.3 divided by 100. So 58.3 divided by 100 is going to give us 0.583. Another easy way to remember that is just moving the decimal place over 2 places to the left. All right, next problem. This one is a word problem. A lot of people don't really care for word problems, but it's all about trying to figure out or identify what the question is asking you. So for instance, we have the ratio of students to teachers in a kindergarten school is 30 to 1. If there are 8 teachers, what is the total number of people in the school? Okay, so the ratio of students to teachers in a kindergarten school is 30 to 1. If there are 8 teachers, what is the total number of people in the school? So the first thing we want to do is set this up as a proportion. So we're going to take 30 over 1. okay, equals x over 8. Okay. Well, we'll write this same way we wrote the other one. Okay, so we want to cross multiply first. So 30 times 8 and 1 times x. So we know that 1 times x is just going to be x. And 30 times 8 is going to give us 240. Okay, so we need to add that number of teachers and students to find out the total number of people in the school. If we go back to our question, it says that the school has 8 teachers. And there's 240 students in the school. So 240 plus 8 will give us 248. Okay, so that's our answer. Next question. A farmer started breeding his cow herd with 9 Friesian cows. At the end of 3 years, he had 16 cows. What is the percentage increase of the cows? Okay, so our first step, to find the increase in the number of cows, we want to subtract the final number of cows from the initial number of cows. So the final number of cows is 16 minus our initial number, which is 9, which gives us 7. We want to find the percentage increase, so we're going to do our formula, which would be percent increase divided by initial number, which is going to be 7 divided by 9. So 7 divided by 9, if we put that in our calculator, we're going to get 0.77. Repeat, which is 0.78 once we round. And we're going to multiply that number by 100 to turn into a percent. And that's going to give us 78%. Find the value of x by solving the proportion. So this next question, we're going to solve proportions. So 6 colon 78 double colon x colon 208. The first thing we want to do is turn this into something that kind of looks like we can understand it. So 6 over 78, you can write it just as a decimal, equals x over 208. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do with this problem is cross multiply. So 6 times x, 6 times 208, and 78 times x. So when we do 6 times 208, we get 1248. And when we do 6 times x, let's rewrite this for a better look. 6 over 78. equals x over 208. 78 times x. Right. So 6 times 208 will give us 1248. And then we have 78x. So 78x equals 1248. And then you want to divide by 78 on both sides. It's getting x by itself when we do that. Okay. So 1248 divided by 78 gives us 16. So x is 16. And one thing about these problems is that you can plug your 16 or your whatever number you get from solving, and you can plug it back into your variable and it should work out. What you would do would be to cross multiply using the 16 times 78 and 6 times 208, and both answers should be the same on each side. Okay, the government has road construction contract where 280 miles are to be paved. If the contractor has so far completed 180 miles, what percentage of the road is remaining on the contract? Okay, so let's type that out. The government has a road construction contract where 280 miles are to be paved. If the contractor has so far completed 180 miles, what percentage of the road is remaining on the contract? Okay. So we're asking about percent. So what we want to do is write down everything we already know. So we know that the length of the road on the contract is 280 miles. So length of road on contract, 280 miles. The completed section is 180 miles. So we need to find out the remaining section. 280 minus 180 is 100. So 100 miles would be the remaining section. To find the percentage of the road remaining, divide 100 by 280 and multiply to find the percentage. So 100 divided by 280 times 100. Okay, and when we get that answer, it's going to be equivalent to 36%. So now we're going to shift some gears and go on to our science section. Okay, so science. We're going to talk a little bit mainly about A&P. That's kind of the bulk of the exam. So we'll just go over a couple highlights and concepts of that portion right now. All right, first question. Which of the following deliberately imposes a treatment on a group of objects in order to observe the response? This is called experiment. So an experiment deliberately imposes a treatment on a group of objects. Just like you would do any other type of typical science experiment, you're deliberately imposing some type of treatment or form on a group so you can observe the response. That is an experiment. Other terms and definition would be treatment. Treatment is something that is administered to experimental projects. Factor is a controlled, independent variable that is used during research. And data is a collection of responses from an imposed treatment of a group. Okay, so those are the components. Next question. A cell is composed of what? Organelles. Organelles are tiny parts of a cell. Some of those are called ribosomes, Golgi apparatus or Golgi complex, endoplasmic reticulum, vacuoles, just to name a few. So these different structures are called organelles. They are located inside of the cell. To understand biological hierarchy, you must know how things work. The basic unit of life is a cell. You put cells together, they become tissues. You put tissues together, they become organs, to organ systems, to organisms. When it comes to organ systems, the skeletal system, for instance, has skull bones, and it is a crucial in the anatomy of the ear would be a temporal bone. So skull bones are divided into 4 lobes: temporal, parietal, frontal, occipital. These 4 lobes are also the names of the bones that are in the skull. The temporal bone or the temporal lobe gives rise to the auditory canal. The frontal bone gives rise to judgment, or the frontal lobe gives rise to judgment. The parietal lobe gives rise to emotions, and the occipital lobe gives rise to vision. Tissues. Tissues can be connective. Tissues can be epithelial. Tissues can be nervous. Tissues can be muscular. Connective tissue consists of bone, blood, ligaments, tendons, epithelial tissue is avascular, and it provides protection. Nervous tissue. Nervous tissue covers the nervous system. In muscular tissue, there's 3 types: smooth, connective, my apologies, smooth skeletal, thinking of bone, and cardiac. The biggest thing to know is which one is voluntary and which one is involuntary. Involuntary, meaning that you have no control, is smooth and cardiac. The respiratory system. The respiratory system consists of an upper and lower system. The upper consists of the nose, the mouth, pharynx, larynx. The lower consists of the trachea, bronchi, alveoli. Alveoli, site of gas exchange. Cardiac. Blood components. There are 5 components of blood. Hemoglobin, red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and plasma. The flow of blood is important. It is key to remember that blood starts and comes through the inferior vena cava and superior vena cava and goes down to the right atrium, from the right atrium to the tricuspid valve, from the tricuspid valve to the right ventricle, from the right ventricle to the pulmonary valve, from the pulmonary valve to the pulmonary artery. This is the only artery in the body that carries deoxygenated blood. From the pulmonary artery, it leaves the body and leaves the heart and goes to the lungs. From the lungs, it goes back to the heart via the pulmonary vein, which is the only vein in the body that carries oxygenated blood. From the pulmonary vein, it goes to the left atrium, to the mitral valve, to the left ventricle, to the aortic valve, to the aorta, and then to the rest of the body. That is the flow of blood. It is a one-way circuit. It does not go backwards. Endocrine. The pituitary gland is the master gland. It controls everything. Some other glands you should be familiar with would be the pineal gland, the pancreas, the adrenal, the thyroid, parathyroid, hypothalamus, just to name a few. Each of these glands are very important in their nature. They all secrete something. The pineal gland secretes melatonin. The pancreas secretes insulin. The adrenal gland secretes sugar, salt, sex hormones. It also secretes epi and norepi. The pancreas also secretes glucagon. Thyroid, parathyroid, and the hypothalamus controls thirst, hunger, and temp. Okay, so now we're going to shift a few more gears here into the English portion and talk about a couple concepts that leads that way. All right, so let's get to this English. Parts of speech. There are 8 parts of speech. All right, nouns, which are broken down to common nouns, proper nouns, and and we also have general nouns. Okay. So nouns are person, place, thing, or idea. Common nouns are the class or group of people, place, things, like bank, school, library, home, truck. Those are different common nouns. Proper nouns are specific names, place or thing. General nouns are names of conditions or ideas. With a general noun, you're going to be looking at things like the condition, like beauty or strength, or an idea like truth or peace. So those are general nouns. Pronouns are what take the place of a noun. Pronouns take the place of a noun. And a pronoun can be nominative, objective, or possessive. And it can be in first, second, or third person. Verbs. Verbs can be transitive or intransitive. A transitive verb is a verb whose action points to the receiver. That is a transitive verb. An intransitive verb do not point to the receiver of action. Action verbs. Action verbs show what the subject is doing in the sentence. That is an action verb. Linking verb. A linking verb links the subject of a sentence to a noun or pronoun. That is a linking verb. Adjective. An adjective is going to ask the question, what kind, how many, or which one? That's what adjectives do. They ask the questions, what kind, how many, or which one? If I say the fourth suit is my favorite, that's what kind, the fourth. I'm sorry, which one, the fourth. If I say the purple suit is my favorite, that is what kind, the purple. If I say how many, can I look over the 3 neckties for the suit? That's asking how many. You only have 3 articles in the English language, and that's an, a, and the. Adverbs tend to end in ly. However, there's an exception to the rule. The negatives not and never are adverbs. Conjunctions. Conjunctions are led by FANBOYS. That's your mnemonic. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Interjections are words that show exclamation. When it comes to punctuation, we want to remember where we put our commas. We want to know that commas come between coordinating conjunctions. We also want to know that commas come after an introductory phrase. After the final out, the team or we went for pizza. We have to know that commas come between series. I will bring the turkey, the pie, and the coffee. We have to know that commas come between coordinate adjectives not joined with and. The kind lonely lady sat down for tea. semicolons. Semicolons separate independent clauses. He is outside. I am inside. Subject-verb agreement. When it comes to subject-verb agreement, subjects and verb must agree in number. Single subject, single verb. For example, Dan calls home. Dan is single and so is calls. Okay. You also want to know the difference between the types of sentences. Declarative sentences. Declarative sentences make a statement. Declarative makes a statement. Imperative gives command. Interrogative asks question. Exclamatory shows emotion. So this will conclude our highlights covering math, English, and science. Please stay tuned for the next recording that will contain the reading highlight. If you need any help whatsoever, please don't hesitate to email us at tutormenurseassistant@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Tutor Me Nurse, and Instagram at Tutor Me Nurse RN. Okay, thank you so much.